Blimey, what the heck is this real estate class action lawsuit all about? Is it going to turn the industry upside down?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. You got Randolph, Angela, and John of Hatch Homes today on our Monday housing market update. So today we're going to talk about some of the hottest news in real estate at the moment. And that is that there is a class action lawsuit going on, if you hadn't heard. I know a few of our clients have sent us little snapshots of scary articles that they've read, like what is going on, what's happening. So today we're going to talk about it. It is the Burnett versus National Association of Realtors lawsuit. So National Association of Realtors, who we will call N.A.R, got found liable in this trial. And they were liable for basically artificially inflating real estate commissions. Now, what does that mean? What is the trial about? We're going to talk about that. We're going to hear from John, who has some really cool experience in other countries, talking about like how they do it there versus how we do it here, and how maybe the way we do it here is actually pretty beneficial to the consumer.
All right.
And Randolph, who is going to talk about who might get hurt by this trial the most. But, this is obviously going to be appealed. It is being appealed, right? But we're going to see all these copycat lawsuits going on. We already started seeing that pretty immediately. There's going to be a lot of people a lot of lawyers trying to make some money off of this, right? But let's break it down. Try to be really simple on it. We have a lot to say. But first, what is the National Association of Realtors, John?
Well, the National Association of Realtors is an association, as it says. It's a body that the vast majority of realtors belong to. In fact, you have to be a realtor to belong to the association. It was implemented to improve standards. In the Wild West days, there was pretty rough and ready with real estate transactions, and it was a body basically to enforce standards and ethics. Every 2 years, every realtor has to go through an ethics course, which N.A.R administers, and they do a lot with to protect real estate buyers and sellers. They lobby the government and basically install standards. Now, it's very interesting that I've over 30 years as being a realtor, nearly 30 years, my experience has been there's no set commission rates. It's not, and there's court cases sort of implying that N.A.R is a union which is sort of dictating these commissions. That's absolutely not true. In fact, all my experience is commissions are negotiable. You can't state a commission, and never been any force from N.A.R to have set rates. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge point. And that's one of the biggest points of, how did they get found liable? Like N.A.R's never knocked on our door and told us this is how much you have to offer, or you charge everybody. So it's I know to people in the industry it's a little mind blowing, but like to the consumers, they might not like get that, But like just consumer wise, one of the biggest issues is that the buyer's agent commission, right? Why should a seller have to pay for that? So how it is a lot of the time, not all the time, and we're seeing this very, very different these days. But if we were to represent a buyer, we would usually, as a buyer's agent, get paid based off what a listing agent is offering us to bring them a buyer. It's called buyer's agent commission. What are they offering us? Now that's basically I've been doing this for 15 years, and that's pretty much how I've gotten paid to represent buyers 100% of the time. It's varied, right? It's not always the same amount. But so if you can make an argument that amount is pretty much built into market value right now, right? And what do buyers have some struggles at the moment where buyers have to pay for a down payment. So they're saving up for a down payment. They have to pay all their prorated taxes and insurance. And as we know with inflation right now, taxes and insurance are going up. And then right now they're paying a lot of rate buy downs. So not only do they have all of these things, they're paying their lender, right? So buyers have all these things. It being able as a buyer's agent representation to be able to get paid through their sale is helping so many buyers have professional representation into purchasing a property. Now, if you think about like taking that away, like sellers, sure, you have a right to do that, but your house might end up being a little bit more expensive to that buyer, right? Or maybe that buyer won't be able to pay for representation, and then what's going to happen? But if you think about it in the sense of buying a carton of milk at the grocery store, right? Like you're not buying that price of your carton of milk isn't like what the farmer's charging, like what the farmer's costs are. It's all along the way. It's like all the costs to sell that product. So right now, that buyer's agent commission is really built into market value because that is what it was costing. So if you don't want to offer buyer's agent compensation, you just have to know, like, you don't have to, but there are some things that go along with that. Like, is your house more expensive than market value? Is the buyer are you going to see that transaction close without buyer's agent representation? Anyhow, we know all about the importance of buyer's agent representation. And Randolph, we were talking about this too, of like some of the buyers that could actually be, this could be really detrimental for them.
Yeah, absolutely. One really good example is our veterans. Our veterans have access to what's called a VA loan. And so one of the things that you had mentioned that a lot of these buyers are struggling is down payment, right? So it's nice to have that 0% down payment. Now, one of the other things that with the VA loan is that you're not allowed to pay for a buyer's commission, right? So obviously, it needs to be coming out of somewhere, right? So
yeah, so veteran buyers aren't allowed to have that line item on their closing costs of buyer's agent compensation. Maybe that'll change because of this. Who knows? Maybe lenders will change their ways and allow buyers to pay it. But right now there are some restrictions that could really, make it hard for a veteran to get into a house. That's just one example, right?
So I feel like that's a very disservice for our veterans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's many other examples. We were talking about how, you just helped some buyers that really didn't have like very much money at all. And you just negotiated a huge closing cost credit for them to get into the house, right? Without representation, how's that going to happen? They're not homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting transaction because basically what I had to do is they had two respective homes to sell. They were actually just getting married, and so one of the things that I had done was I actually went to the lender and say, hey, what are some of the things that we need to do to get them into this great home that they're interested in? And they said, well, we need to have this buy down rate of a significant amount, and so obviously I presented that buy down rate or that amount to the seller, and we came to something relatively close. And in order for that to work, we had to kind of compartmentalize any type of emotions, right? I'm representing the buyer, the listing agent is representing the seller. We want to be able to kind of present facts, make this work, and have everybody move on to their next chapter.
Yeah, because often when buyers and sellers work directly, there's a lot of emotion. So
yeah,
try to keep those aligned.
Yeah, even listing agents and buyers agent tends to
yeah
but we work things out
because
it's all about our clients.
So so that's huge. We could talk about those stories all the time, but we don't need to. We want to hear John. So you have some really cool stories, really interesting stories. I've always been fascinated to hear your stories of how they do it in other countries, in England in particular, because getting into real estate, I didn't realize that other countries did it so differently.
Yeah, they do. And yeah, so well, my first experience was I was here. I was just starting a real estate career here, and my father died in England, and my mother had to move home so she could be closer to my brother and much better situation. So she did what everyone else does over there, and she looked around, found a house that came up, and went to the listing agent, looked on the sign, and called the number.
Because they don't have buyer's agent.
Don't have buyer's agency, no, they don't have it, and they don't have an association, N.A.R, protecting people. So she went ahead, and it all seemed very smooth and easy. However, when she moved into the home, which took quite a while to actually, the whole transactions take terribly long, because anyway, we'll go into that later. But so she moves into a house. All right, there's no curtains, there's no window coverings, there's no blinds, and okay, well, the listing agent didn't explain that, you know, you need to specify those if you want them. And she knows there's no, it had fitted carpet, but it was gone. There was no fitted carpet anywhere. It was all floorboards. And of course, the listing agent said, well, you want your own carpet, won't you? And then she looked in the fireplace. There was just brick. The gas fireplace was all removed. And oh, well, you want a fireplace? So these are the sort of things that buyers beware. And it so also reminds me here, we have a lot more consumer protection in place, but here dual agency is, you know, where there's no buyer agent involved, is the biggest litigation in real estate. It's really, we're always very wary when we get into those situations of representing the buyer and the seller. There's all sorts of discussions, but in England, no. Horrible things. And then we sold her house. She moved into assisted living, and we had a role in that, and we sold the house. We selected a listing agent. We helped them market the home, sold really quickly. However, 6 months later, it still hadn't closed because of all these blooming procedures, and attorneys are involved every step of the way, and they don't seem to work more than a few hours a day, and certainly not weekends. And then we got to the end of the transaction, and a couple of steps on the way, there's a whole chain of transactions, and this one falls over, that one falls over. Oh, we need more money. We need, you're going to have to give up some of your money to help these people, buyers down the track. Oh, it's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. 6 months it took to close.
I mean, that's insane. When you think about how kind of efficient our transactions here, 30 days are,
yeah,
right?
It's a blessing. It really is.
Yeah.
And there's stories of like how we did it before buyer's agent representation, and it was really like buyer beware, right? So like,
oh, yeah.
So, you know, like having representation on both sides, we found has been extremely important in having happy clients, having people, you know, be protected and get the most out of this huge investment that they're making. So bottom line of there's going to be a lot of ripple effects of this trial. I know we kind of touched on it. There's a lot of discussion. We don't think that necessarily this is bad for the industry. We think that making sure that these types of things are very clear to the consumer is important, and you're going to see that clarity heightened throughout your next real estate transactions. Agents are going to be held to different standards in terms of communication, and we think that those are good things. We want consumers to be protected. But, you know, some of the things that N.A.R is really trying to like hammer down to, you know, agents and to consumers is that, you know, costs are spelled out to sellers and buyers. That's why we have a contract. So you're going to see more buyer's agent representation agreements. Actually, those are going to become more mandatory. So if you're a buyer and you've bought houses before and you've never had to sign a contract with your buyer's agent, you will have to do that now. It's going to have to be very clear. Compensation is often negotiable, always negotiable. Not everybody charges the same thing. We don't have N.A.R. knocking on our door telling us what we are charging you. And we're going to see, you know, like all these copycat trials. You're going to see some, like, I'm already seeing the headlines of, you know, like real estate burning.
There'll be a lot of attorneys thinking, oh, this is a great way to earn some money.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be terrible if that all panned out and all these attorneys got awarded these billions of dollars. N.A.R. would disappear, and some of the brokerages would.
Yeah.
Worst case. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about this, please reach out. Remember to like and subscribe. Like, we're going to be following all these, you know, copycat trials and the appeal pretty closely, because it is pretty big news. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.